And hello everybody. This might be a bit of an unusual video of what content I normally post on this channel, but I thought I'd post it anyways. So here we are on the ground at San Francisco with the beautiful Fenix A320 IAE in the Friendship United livery. And today I'm just going to do a short video on the startup procedures of this aircraft as well as in-flight all the way to shutdown. Now I do just want to make a quick note that nothing in this video is based off any real-life checklists or any way a real-life pilot would fly this aircraft. This is purely based on my simulator experience and how I fly the aircraft. So with that said, let's get straight into the video and jump into the cockpit. Once you're in the cockpit of the A320, you're going to want to press Control 5 to get to the overhead panel. And you'll see nothing is lit up except for the exterior power, which we will press on. And you'll hear everything start to come to life. Once it starts to spool up, you can go ahead and press battery number 1 and battery number 2. Once those come to life as well, you can go ahead over to the top left here and switch these three to nav. These will align your IRS. I believe it's after 7 minutes. I like to set this as well. Once your IRSs are aligned, this will showcase your true heading. Once these are aligning, you can come over here down to the bottom left and press crew supply and ground control. And then over here you can arm the emergency exit lights. You can turn the no smokings to auto, which they will stay that the entire flight. And the nav and logo lights can go to number 1. And with the overhead being set, we can now move on to the EFB and flight plan setup. Now here we are in the wonderful Fenix EFB. We have all of these options here. Before you import the flight plan, you're going to want to go into the settings tab here and you will have an option to link your Navigraph as well as your SimBrief alias. And you're going to want to do that. After that, you can come over to the Fenix app, press on that, and right here you can import your entire flight plan from SimBrief that you filed. After this, you can head down to mass and balance, which will be how you board your aircraft. Now, this is up to you whether you're using GSX or you don't have GSX and you want to do it with one of these three options. For the sake of this video, I'm going to use GSX so it loads the passengers via GSX, which will also be the method I will be using for pushback today. So we're going to go ahead and press that.
Boarding requested.
The menu will open on the right there. It's requesting the fuel and the jetway. Now, an important part to note for GSX is in sim settings on the bottom right, you can come over to GSX and you can customize it how you like. So if you want auto pushback, it's up to you. Auto catering, there's all these different options. I like to have those off so I can request it myself. As well as the service sequence, I like to only use boarding and fuel. I don't usually do the catering. Now that the passengers and the cargo are going to start to be loaded into the aircraft, we're going to go ahead into the MCDU and get the flight plan set up. Once you are down in the MCDU, which you can reach by pressing Control 1 and Control 2 for the right side, you're going to see this page, which is the McDo menu. You're going to go ahead and press FMGC, which will take you to this page here. This will show you your engine, the active nav database, which if you have Navigraph, this will connect automatically. Well, not automatically, you need to update it via the Navigraph hub. With that being said, you can go ahead and press the init page. You'll see here your company route, which will not really be used, and then your from/to. You're going to go ahead and press init request after you have added your flight plan into the EFB, and you'll see this start to come. There we go. Now that you have this done, you're going to put your flight number right there, which for me today is going to be United 433. And if you don't know your cost index and you don't remember your cruise altitude, that is okay, because if you come back to the EFB by pressing Control 3, you can go to the home, You can press pilot brief, and that will bring you your entire flight plan, which if you see here, my cost index is 5. So we're going to go back, Control 1 to the MCDU, and we're going to put 5 in for the cost index. And today the cruise altitude I chose was flight level 340, 34,000 feet, which you can plug in right there. After all of these are set up, you can go ahead to the IRS init right here, and you can press align on ref, which will make sure. Another press right there for confirm, and that is now aligning. You can press on return, and then press on wind for the wind request. This will be your winds for climbing and for cruise and for descent. After that's uplinked, you can go back and press return, and the init page is done, which we can now move on to the flight plan page. And this is what it should look like for me, because I'm doing a quick flight from San Francisco to Medford. For you, there might be a few other waypoints in there. And the first thing you're going to want to do is click on the top left here, your departure airport, and then press departure. And in here you'll have your runways and your departure SIDs. So today we are going to be taking runway 01 left on the Truckin' 2 departure with the Grateful transition. I do just want to note, unlike Boeing, in this plane, to scroll up you do need to press the down arrow, and to scroll down you need to press the up arrow. It's a bit of a reverse, but you get used to it after a while. After you have these set into your plane, you're going to press temporary insert right there. You can just clear this by pressing the clear button. And the departure is now set into the aircraft. Next thing you're going to want to do is come to the arrival airport. Now, because I'm not flying on VATSIM today, I can go ahead and just put my arrival in right away. Usually, if you have a air traffic controller online, you'll wait until you get closer to, in case they give you a special approach or different runway for a runway change. Because I'm flying offline, I can go ahead and just do that right now. We're going to be taking the RNAV Yankee runway 32 via Hiveg, which it's already put in there. There we go. Everything's all set. All you need to do now is the secondary flight plan option right there. Copy that to the active. It's going to go white. That's okay. And then press flight plan one more time. After your flight plan is all set up, you can come to the init page again. Press the right arrow to go to page 2, and you'll have this, your init page. Now, these two on the top right here you cannot do until your passengers and baggage is fully loaded, including your fuel. But what we can do is put the block fuel in. So if you go ahead and go back to the EFB, back to your mass and balance, you can see our planned fuel today is 5492, 5400, which rounded up is 5.5. So you're going to go back to the MCDU, and you're going to do 5.5 in the fuel. And that's the setup, all you can do for now. I will come back after, once the passengers and the cargo is all boarded, to showcase the rest of the setup for the aircraft. Alright, once your boarding is completed and everything is on board your aircraft, you can go back to the MCDU, and you can tell everything is boarded because your planned matches your boarded. Same with here, and same with here. So you're going to go back to the MCDU, and you're going to go to the init page one more time. This time you're going to be pressing the right arrow to get to the second page. And these are the important parts you're going to need. So you're going to go back to the EFB by pressing Control 3. And you're going to take these two numbers here, this one and this one. And you can either do this by pressing Send to MCDU the easy way, or if you want to, you can type it in, which for the sake of this video, we're going to type it in manually. So it's going to be 58004, which rounded is just 58, /31.6. So you go back to the MCDU, I'll go 58.0 /31.6. Once you put that in, it'll take just a few seconds for everything to come to life in this page, which you can see it just did, which is perfect. So you are now going to go over to the perf page for your takeoff. For this, though, there is an app in the EFB made just for this called Departure Perf. And you're going to go here and you're going to select your runway, whether that's dry or wet, depending on the weather. sync the load sheet, sync the live weather just to be sure. And in here, you're never going to really need to use anything more than 1+F. I always go for that. Force toga you can if you want to. I like doing it on short runways, but because San Francisco has quite a long runway, I don't think we need to today. Packs will be on, and after all this is set, you can press calculate. And again, there is a send to MCDU button if you really want to just send it, or if you want to do it manually, which we are going to do, you can do that. So it's going to be 136, 140, and 140. So we're going to go type that in. Put that in V1, 140, and 140. There's two more things you need to do on that page, which is the flaps and the flex takeoff temperatures. So the flex takeoff temperature will be 56, and the flaps will be 1/down 0.3. Perfect. That's the entire setup for the McDo, so you can go back to the flight plan page. You can go ahead over here to the altitude knob and select your cruise altitude. Now if your departure, if you're flying in Europe or if you're flying somewhere busy in the United States, you might have an altitude restriction on takeoff. So for say if you have a 5,000 altitude cap, you'll just switch that to 5,000, and if you get vectors or a higher altitude from the air traffic controller, you can then switch it up after. But because we're offline today, we're going to put it straight up to our cruising altitude of 34,000 feet. Before we request pushback, there's one more thing to do, which is set the QNH. So we're going to go ahead back over here, press the home button, back to the Fenix tab. You can press My Flights, click on Weather, and just refresh that to make sure it's the most up-to-date one. And you can see right here the altimeter is 2988. So we're going to set that in this one down here, and the one over there. With all that set up, we are now ready for pushback, so we can go up to the overhead panel, turn on all the fuel pumps there, switch on the APU by pressing master switch, wait a few seconds, and then hold down the start button for 1 to 2 seconds. Now that'll start to spool up, which you can tell automatically by this page right here once this number gets up to around 95. Alright, the APU has now reached 100. So you can go to the overhead panel and you'll see the start now says available, so you will now press the APU bleed button to on, and you can go ahead and turn that external power off. Now it still says available because it's still connected, so if you want to fix that, you can go over to the EFB one more time and press ground services, which you can then remove the ground power unit and the chocks. And now that we have that all set up, we are now ready for pushback. So we're going to go ahead and call the pushback tug and get ready for departure. Alright, now that we're pushing back, make sure your beacon light is on and the APU bleed is on. And with that being said, we can go over down here, and this can be turned to ignition, and you can go ahead and flick on the engine number 2 starter. And if you look up here, you'll start to see it come to life in just a second.
Once again, welcome to United. My name is Kristen. I'll be your person on today's flight. Thank you, Mileage Plus members, for your loyalty to all customers for choosing to fly with us today. While service is our passion, safety is our top priority. Please take a minute to review the safety card at your seat. Please also pay attention to the following safety demo or safety video even if you're a frequent flyer, as each aircraft type is different.
Alright, now that the engine says available, you can go ahead down here and you can select the engine 1 to start. With the pushback complete, you can go ahead and press Control 6 to get down here, make sure your parking brake is set. And now that we're done pushback, you can go ahead and turn the ignition from start back to normal. You can go ahead and also turn your transponder on. And because we're on a flaps 1 departure today, you can go ahead and pull your flaps down to 1, as well as arm the speed brakes right there. We're also going to go up ahead right here, and we're going to arm the auto brake by pressing max, Once all of these are green, you can go ahead and press Takeoff Config. Right here it says Predictive Wind Shear is off. Most people have trouble finding this button, but it is right down here. It's a little switch. PWS, go ahead and switch that over to auto. The cabin says check, that is okay. Once we get closer to the runway, that will come online, and you can go ahead. Once this says green and okay, this will flash down here orange. Just make sure you press the reset button before your departure, or else the announcements might not work once you get in the air. Which was right there. So you can see it's flashing orange. We're going to go ahead and press the reset button. That orange flashing light will go away. And now everything is ready there, so you are good for taxi. Make sure before you start taxi, once your engines are started, you go ahead and turn the APU master switch off as well as the APU bleed. And you turn the taxi lights on. We're going to start our taxi to the runway, and I will show you guys the method I use for departure. Okay, so here we are short of runway 1 left at San Francisco. We're going to go ahead and take off the parking brakes and give it just a little bit of power to get onto the runway. We're going to come to the overhead, turn your strobes to on, nav and logo lights can go to number 2 now. Runway turn-off lights go on. And because we are cleared for takeoff, you can go ahead and turn all of these on right here. If it was nighttime, you can go ahead and turn the wing lights off, on, if you'd like. And you can either keep them on during the duration of the flight or turn them off whenever you feel like it. So we're going to try and get this as straight as we can on the center line. Just like that. You don't need to turn it too much, but just enough to get it onto the center line. If you overshoot, that's fine. You can get back on the center line once you start rolling. And because we're on the center line now, we're going to go ahead and give it about 40% throttle. And we're going to go down here and press pedal disconnect for departure. Going to go ahead and hit chrono for the timer, and we're going to put the throttles up to toga. And V1, rotate. Pull back gently on the stick, just enough to get the wheels off the ground. Once that middle green line comes on, go ahead and put the gear up. And try to follow the path as best as possible. Once you hit about 1,400 feet, 1,200 feet, you're going to see it saying lever climb, so you're going to bring your throttles back down to lever climb. And that'll reduce the thrust for your departure. And once you hit that S marker on that left of your PFD there, you can go ahead and retract the flaps back up to 0. And climb away as best as possible. Once you're airborne, you can also go down here and you can go ahead and put the speed brakes back in. Your auto brake will automatically turn off, and you can turn the runway turn-off lights off, as well as the taxi lights. And if you want to, you can hand fly it up to 10,000, 5,000, it's up to you. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and turn the autopilot on right now. And you can see we're climbing through 2,500 feet. Once you hit 10,000 feet, you can go ahead and retract the landing lights to the retract button, like that. And keep them in the retract button until you're on final, or below 10,000 feet on descent. Once you're through 18,000, you can go ahead and pull this for standard, which is going to be the down arrow there. And that's all for climb. I will showcase you guys how to do descent and arrival once we get to that point. If you come down to the MCDU now, you can see our top of descent is just 3 miles away. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and switch our altitude down. Let's just say 3,000. And we're going to go ahead and click the up arrow on that. And that will select the altitude. Your top of descent can be set anywhere from 1 mile to 5 miles out from top of descent. If you select 5 miles out, your plane will start descending at 1,000 feet per minute until this little green dot there catches, and then it'll descend accordingly. And you can see on the McDo that it says enter destination data. We're going to go ahead and press clear on that, and we're going to go to perf, next phase, until you get to the approach phase. You can see here it has QNH, temperature, and the baro. The baro for my arrival today, if you check the charts, is 1870. So we're going to go ahead and put that in on the right side. And that is set. All you need to do is set the temperature and the QNH, which can be found in the EFB on the arrival METAR. Make sure you keep it up to date and you refresh it every so often on your descent, just in case it updates. As you can see here, it is 2983 for the altimeter, and the temperature is 34 degrees Celsius. So if you go ahead and put 34 and 2983 for the altimeter. Once that's set, you're all good for descent. Always keep an eye on your altitude to try and keep that that green dot right in the center of the altitude right there as it is. If you're going a bit over speed, you have this big purple box area that you can keep your speed in. As long as your yellow speed selector is somewhere in there, that is okay. If your green dot is starting to go a little bit either down or up, you can always change your speed accordingly. You can either use your auto brakes or you can put your speed up in case you're a bit too low. That's all for descent. I will wait until we get closer to arrival, and then we'll set up the plane for landing. Okay, now that we're below 10,000 feet, we can go ahead and, I've already done this off camera, but you can go ahead and turn the landing lights off, including the takeoff ones on, and the runway turn-off lights. Again, if it's nighttime, you can go ahead and turn the wing lights on. We are going to because the sun is about to set on the horizon. You can see here, because we're on an RNAV, you see this little green box. Once you get in that green box, you can go ahead and arm approach mode. That will arm approach mode in the MCDU as well. You can see it down here. It is now armed. Final approach speed today is going to be 136. We'll go back here and you can see we're 21 miles out from the runway, now 20, so we're going to go ahead and pull flaps 1. We do have speed brakes out just to keep the speed that we're at right now, as it is a bit bumpy down into Rogue Valley. What I like to do is 20 miles out I pull flaps 1, and then around 12 miles out I'll pull flaps 2. Once you're about 9 miles out, you can then put the gear down and then fly the approach from there, pulling flaps accordingly, and as long as you get to the runway at your approach speed, should all be fine. Now that we are on a short final for Medford or Rogue Valley International Airport, you can go ahead and just like departure, you will have a green checklist for arrival, so you need to make sure your landing gear is down, seatbelt signs are on, cabin is ready, spoilers, pull these up to arm them, and flaps are full, and you are at your approach speed. You can take over at any time. We're 2 miles out, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the autopilot right now and fly the arrival. Over approach, you're going to want to make sure at around 50 feet you pull the throttle to idle, and around 30 feet you can start to make your little bit of a flare.
Minimum. Retard.
Once you have made it down to the ground, you can then taxi off the runway. Make sure when you're making a sharp turn like this, you're not doing it more than around 15 knots, preferably around 10 knots. And once you're off the runway, you can go ahead and turn those landing lights off and the taxi lights back on. Now that we're off the runway, we can go down over here. We can put those spoilers back in and retract the flaps back up to 0. You can see, just like departure, that the auto brake has automatically turned back off. To the overhead panel, go ahead and turn the strobes off. Nav and logo lights can go to 1. Wing lights can go off. Runway turn-off lights can also go off. Press master switch on the APU. Wait a second, and then just like the startup, you can hold it for 1 to 2 seconds, and then let go. That's all you need to do until parking. Next will be shutdown. Now that we're approaching the gate, you can go ahead and turn your taxi lights off, and up here you can put your APU bleed on. If you're using GSX, you'll have a nice little thing there to help you get into the gate just perfectly. Around 10, you want to start slowing down a bit more just so you don't overshoot. And we're going to stop it right there. Once you're stopped, you'll see them with the cutoff signal right there. Go ahead down to the bottom here, turn your parking brake on, and you can go ahead and turn your engine number 2 selector off and engine number 1 selector as well. On the EFB, Fenix will be asking you if you want to commence deboarding. You can go ahead and press deboard. If you're using GSX, you can go ahead and open the toolbar there and request deboarding right there. Over to ground services, we're going to go ahead and turn on the GPU and jocks, which it's already done it for me, which is perfect. So you can go back to the overhead, enable the external power there. You can go ahead and turn the APU bleed off and the master switch as well. Seatbelt signs can go off as well, same as no smoking. Since we're doing a full shutdown of the aircraft, we can turn the emergency exit lights off as well. Beacon lights can go on, nav and logo lights can go off as well. Correction beacon can go off. And then we're going to go ahead and turn all the fuel pumps off as well. Once those are off, you can go ahead to the top here and switch these to off. Go ahead and turn the navs off as well. Now that that's all done, that's basically the entire shutdown procedure of the aircraft. You can just wait for the deboarding of all your passengers. Once they're all deboarded, you can come back to the top, turn the external power off, as well as both of the batteries. Now that deboarding has commenced and you can see all the stuff is coming off the aircraft, thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully this helped some of you guys to better understand the aircraft and learn the aircraft. If I did miss anything that you guys need, please feel free to drop a comment below and I'll do my best to help you. If you guys need another video or anything explaining any of the systems in the Fenix, I would be willing to do so as long as you drop a comment below. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped some of you guys.